Kurt Busch announced today that he's going to try and do the double Memorial Day weekend, race in the Indy 500, and then commute to Charlotte and drive in the Coke 600. No one has tried this since Robbie Gordon attempted it a decade ago. Now, Busch did the Indy 500 rookie orientation program last year. He does still have the daunting task of qualifying for the 500 at the Brickyard. He'll start his journey May 10th after the Cup race in Kansas, heading to Indy for 5 days of practice. Then he goes back to Charlotte for all-star practice before returning for Indy 500 pole day. The next week, he'll again go back and forth for practices, and then the 25th, the Indy 500 starts at noon Eastern. The 600-mile race at Charlotte begins around 6 Eastern time. For more on the history of drivers trying the double, here's Nicole Briscoe.
If successful, Kurt Busch will become just the 4th driver to do the Indy-Charlotte double and the first since Robbie Gordon a decade ago.
Robbie Gordon will drive 1,100 miles today, all things being well.
In his 4 attempts, he has never completed the 1,100 miles. His most successful 500 finish, when attempting the double, was in 2002 when he finished 8th.
I feel good. I feel confident, real excited.
He followed up with a 16th place result at Charlotte, but was not on the lead lap.
I'm going to be wounded for a while. We thought we were going to have it for him, and we just came up a bit short in both ends.
John Andretti was the first to attempt the double, and that was in 1994.
Glad to see John Andretti make it.
He started and finished 10th that year in the 500 before engine issues forced him to retire just past the halfway in the 600-mile race in Charlotte.
Here in the Tony Stewart pit, the concern is not fuel, but time. He will have approximately 5.5 minutes from the wave of the checkered flag to be on a helicopter to head to Charlotte, or else he will miss the start of the 600 miles.
By far, the most successful of the previous 3 drivers to attempt the double is native Hoosier Tony Stewart. Stewart ran the Indy-Charlotte double just twice, but made his mark on both races, both years. He completed all but 10 miles at Indy, finishing 9th and 6th respectively those years. At Charlotte, he managed to sum up the energy to run all 1,200 miles, winding up 4th in 1999 and 1 spot better in 2001, the year he became the only driver to complete all 1,100 miles on the same day.
Hats off to Tony. This is a lot of work.
You know, I had 2 doctors on the plane that took real good care of me.
And Kurt Busch joins us now in studio. 1,100 miles. Why? Why are you going to do this?
You know, to challenge myself in motorsports. I've always been a big fan of the open wheel world, but I grew up in the NASCAR system, and I love stock cars. I'm a champion. I've built my home there. I will always be there. But this circles around to a bucket list item that back in the 90s, when I was first starting out, I had this fork in the road. Literally, a guy gave me a stock car ride, and I had another guy calling me to run his little midget on a dirt track in the USAC ranks.
I guess that what comes to mind is just the physical challenge of driving 1,100 miles, not to mention going back and forth from Indy to Charlotte. What do you see as the hardest part of all this?
There's the logistical challenge, keeping up with the flights, and I've partnered with Cessna to get me back and forth on these flights, the workout regimen, the mental aspect. But the number one thing I can't prepare for is when they drop the green flag at Indy, to be ready for when the draft happens, when 33 of us get sucked down in there into turn 1. Being able to experience that, push all that aside, and then focus on the race and the task at hand.
Now, of course, obviously, you've got a NASCAR background. How much time have you spent behind the wheel of an open wheel car, and how ready are you for that's the highest in the sport to be able to do that? Do you feel like you're ready for that, Kurt?
It's going to be a big challenge. I am as best prepared as I can be through Andretti Autosport. I have to thank Michael Andretti for the rookie orientation last year. Got up to 218 miles an hour.
There you go.
But that's by myself. That's when the track's fresh and easy. You got to do it in practice. We're going to be doing more testing. This is going to be a full-blown effort. I mean, it took a year to get to this point, to line up a competitive IndyCar ride and to have Stewart Haas give me a stock car that's capable of winning the 600-mile race. I mean, dream come true.
You mentioned Stewart Haas. Tony Stewart has tried this and actually completed it a long time ago. What kind of advice has he given you about trying to do the double?
He's excited for me. He's also saying that I'm insane. He's also saying he wants to go to Indy to watch this and be part of it. But he set the bar a decade past of completing all 1,100 miles. Nobody ever thought that would ever be possible. And I'm going to give it a shot. You know, my IndyCar experience is nil, and I've got to lean on the team with Andretti Autosport and just be a student. I have to go to work on race tapes, call people, get the experience level I can with as many checklist items out of the way before I get to the month of May.
You talked about your physical regimen earlier. How are you ramping that up? What are you doing to get ready for this?
You know, I called up a martial arts instructor, Karate Stan. He's been boot camping me, wearing me out already, and I've got a Basis watch that's going to be with me all through this process, tracking everything that I'm doing. And fans, with this new world of social media, want to be involved. They want to be engaged with it. They can track it. We've got this social media platform that's going to be fun to be part of. But ultimately, it's that experience of the 1,100 miles in one day that I can't wait for.
All right, we're looking forward to seeing if you can pull it off. When is qualifying for Indy 500? When do you have to make the field?
That's the week before Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And that's Charlotte's All-Star weekend. And so with All-Star weekend, it's a bit more lighthearted. It isn't as intense. And that's where there's the slight conflict in scheduling. But Stuart Haas, the personnel and the team there, has granted me the access to go. That'll be the pressure cooker in Indy, is getting that Indy car up to speed and qualified.
Well, Kurt, we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for stopping by today.
Thanks a lot.
Kurt Busch looking to do the double at the end of May, race the Indy 500 and the 600-mile race in Charlotte as well.